So while I was working on some more of the Venturi stuff on Sunday, I finally got it working, which was using prefabs and putting the rock prefab into a rigid body 2D. Like that's what the script held it as. So then once the use rock function then became that it was creating a clone of the rigid body, and then following that it then created the throw force and like the new velocity in the x-axis. And as you can see from the video, this ended up actually working. I was able to pick the rock up again and throw it, so it means that is a working inventory for the rock. So the next day of working, which today, this is the 23rd, and I had the inventory working. Now it was the time to work on the spawn testing and where the player would spawn in the next scene. So I created a game status script which got attached to the player, and which uses the scene management, which is a new feature of Unity, in how they load the scene. Placed the two scenes that I was using in the build settings, and then for the script I said on when it hit a collider at the end of the scene of the pre-scene where you pick up the rock shown in the previous video, it would then load into the actual tutorial with all the assets. And then I had to work out where the player would spawn when loading the new scene, and on first testing this and just loading the scene up, just with the application load, the player spawned in the other end of like where they finished in the previous scene. So when they came into the tutorial level, they were at the far right of the screen rather than the far left where they're meant to be spawning normally. So to get around this, I used the on level was loaded function, which is placed in the game state script, and then you can put set variables and functions within that. So it's for the next level that is loaded from the previous one that you're in. So that basically means it's the tutorial level, for simplest terms. So in there I set a new position for the player as a spawn position, which is a vector 3, and the spawn position was referenced both in the pre-scene and the tutorial scene, so to make sure that was working properly. And then once I'd got that spawn position put in, the spawn between scenes was working fine. The next piece of testing for today's work was fading between scenes, as if you just load a level and then load into a new scene, when it hits the collider, it just immediately like stops the timescale and then switches me to UI, so it looks really like buggy and just doesn't look very nice. So for each of our scene changes, we're going to be implementing a fade in, fade out, which will make the gameplay much smoother. And also on top of that will feature like intros, obviously the UI along with the fading. So I think that is what's used in a lot of games that transfer between scenes. Otherwise it makes the gameplay like it's a lot less smooth, and it won't be attractive to some people. They won't like it if it's just a static change between the two. So I'd done fading before for Able last year, so I just sort of used a script for a fade in and out, and which used a black square which followed the camera just in front of the camera so it can be seen, and then used access the vector 4s of this of the fade, which created in the script, which was attached to the fade block, and the vector 4 effectively has the color and the fill, and so then the start, which is transparent, was just all 0, and then the end, like the full black scale, would be just a 1 in the 4th axis as the fill. So then I'd created two separate functions, one fade in, fade out, and then on start it just faded in. So it was a vector 4 lerp, so it's just similar to using the camera, how the camera works. So it goes from no movement just to a fill of from a full black to a transparent. And then I created it, and then used some variables in there of can fade in, can fade out, so that it would use it would do the functions properly, and then accessing the script of the load level, so the game status. So when the player reached the end of that load of the end of the level, and then the new scene was loaded. This then transferred back to the fade script, which said then it can fade out. So then the as the player was coming out of one scene, it would fade out and then load the other one effectively with the fade as well. So it just made made the gameplay for so far a lot smoother and looking a lot better. So the next video was just is just showing how I tested all the full testing of the script, so they're using the fade, the spawn, and the inventory system in the new scene. And also all that needs to be added to this is like an intro, music, and the UI explaining what the thing goes. But in terms of gameplay goes for now, with all those elements that I've worked on today, the tutorial pre-scene is now fully working. I then spent the rest of the day redoing part of level 2. So I was going to start putting the NPCs in, which I have, but we'll start on tomorrow. But I was just playing through the, I remembered that Adam said during testing that the gameplay was still quite slow in level 2, which I didn't then carry on working on, but now I have I'm going to focus my time on. There's still quite a few bugs with how it plays, as in the camera shows part of the grey screen when in the end scene. The sort of piece of wood that gets knocked into the fruit is still moves can still move unpredictably and fall down into the scene, which I don't want to happen and won't stay in one fixed point. So I spent a bit of today redoing those sort of the colliders and trying hinge joints on this. Then just general testing of what I could do for both the camera and the piece of wood that needs moving and how to make them better and smoother. So I didn't get to finish that all today because it ended up being quite late, but I will then spend tomorrow working on the camera movements at the end of the second level and probably end up rewriting it, so it doesn't necessarily follow the fruit, but just moves down the scene so it can be seen. So tomorrow I'll make that look a lot smoother because I'm not currently happy with it, so I definitely need to rework on that tomorrow, and then I can put in the NPCs for a better, like a fuller looking scene.